Hello, I'm Heather Anderson, and welcome to Thetford Priory. This is stop 2 on my Thetford Priory historical tour. Behind me is what remains of the Lady Chapel, which dates from the first half of the 13th century. This large rectangular chapel has a large window opening with a pointed arch, as you can see. This chapel housed a miraculous image of the Virgin Mary, which attracted many pilgrims to the site. Next to this chapel is a smaller nave, which is thought to be the former tomb of John Howard, the first Duke of Norfolk, which dates from the 15th century. The priory fell to ruins after the dissolution of the monasteries. The dissolution of the monasteries in the mid-1500s is considered one of the most revolutionary events in English history. Before the dissolution, there were approximately 900 religious houses in England and around 12,000 people who were monks, canons, friars, or nuns. This equated to about one adult man for every 50 that were in religious orders. Religious houses dominated the landscape, with the churches being the largest building to be seen. Monks, nuns, and friars were a familiar part of everyday life in the early 16th century. Priories, like this one, were involved in hospitality, charity, artistic and music patronage, scholarship, and education. In his quest to have a male heir, King Henry VIII divorced his wife Catherine of Aragon and secretly married Anne Boleyn in 1533. After the secret marriage, King Henry VIII was excommunicated from the Catholic Church. In 1534, Parliament passed the Act of Supremacy. This act declared that the king and his heirs would be the supreme head of the Church of England. They were no longer to be under the authority of the Pope or Catholicism. This act also opened the door for the dissolution of the monasteries. It gave the king permission to visit, repress, redress, reform, order, correct, restrain, and amend all such errors, heresies, abuses, contempts, and enormities whatsoever they may be in the Church of England. It is commonly accepted that the monasteries were dissolved by King Henry VIII and Thomas Cromwell for financial reasons. The monasteries and priories had wealth, gold, and other treasures that could be placed into royal coffers to fund King Henry VIII's wars. However, the dissolution also served as a way for King Henry to assert his royal authority. His father, King Henry VII, took the throne in a bloody battle that killed King Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth. And King Henry VIII needed an heir to secure his family's line on the throne. There were also religious reasons for the dissolution. It reformed a world of religious superstition into a new Reformed church. At first, King Henry dissolved the smaller monasteries while allowing the monks and nuns to transfer to larger houses. However, after the Pilgrimage of Grace in 1536, King Henry VIII wanted total dissolution. The Pilgrimage of Grace was an uprising that took place in Lincolnshire and later spread to Yorkshire in the north of England. The uprising under leader Robert Aske was a protest against the break with the Catholic Church and the dissolution of the smaller monasteries. From 1535, Thomas Howard, the third Duke of Norfolk, petitioned the king to save Thetford Priory. His argument was that since King Henry's illegitimate son, Henry Fitzroy, the Duke of Richmond, was buried here, as well as the previous Howard Dukes, the priory could be changed into a secular church. He also argued that it could be made into a collegiate church by the king, and Thetford Priory was originally one of 5 religious buildings to be considered for that purpose. In the end, King Henry decided that Thetford Priory was to be dissolved, and on February 16, 1540, Prior William and his 13 monks signed the deed of surrender. The remains of those buried here were removed. The Howard Dukes, as well as Henry Fitzroy, Duke of Richmond, were taken to Framlingham for reburial. Follow me as we go to stop 3, where we discuss the murder of one of the monks.